to make a video for many data analysts and business analysts. For example, here what I'm looking at is Canadian crop yields from Public Statistics Canada. One of the things that many data analysts look at are tables such as these. So this is just an example table showing crop type, yields in metric tons, and they might have to do some kind of analysis on this. You in this video is how to go from something like this into having a direct put it straight into PostgreSQL, have a schema developed in a database of these tables. That is where you're going to run most of your SQL queries. And here's from the data table. And this particular one is just crop data. So I'm going to go through this and I'm going to show you how you can go from what you get on the website and you download the CSV files, which is one of the most common formats for downloading data, and with just some basic information in programming, you're going to add data into your database. And here, as an example, I'm using PostgreSQL. So, and we'll walk through the steps in just a moment. Okay, so previously we saw the screen here, and this is already when the information is already. What I want to do is back up to after you've downloaded, say, a sample information sample CSV file, and then at that point you're going to be looking at it in, say, Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, and what you basically have is something like this. Now you can do some analysis in here in Excel or Sheet, but what you really want to do is get it into a database format such as this one. So if you take a look and see how a database would create and import this thing instruction like this, where it would say create table if not exists. For example, I created the schema and the database called farm, and you see that here as a schema and as a database farm, and the table is called crop data. And so here are the various headers in the table with the data. And then, it has some other verbiage here. I'm going to show you how you can almost create this statement here using coding, using programming. And that's what I want to instruct you in this video. Here, and I'm using a copy of Free Basic that you can download from the freebasic.net website, and I've just used this for decades. This is just my go-to programming language, but the same exact code in C, C++, Java, and numerous other language. I'm sure that Python already has a package, and R most likely is. But if you need to do this manually, basic, typically you will declare some of your variables at the top and the data type, and in do things a little bit sloppier than you could in C or C++, but just to make the code somewhat decent, I went ahead and took care of that. The very first thing that my code does is enter the schema name that is going to be put into Postgre. And second of all, the table that the data is generating a table in the database. After that, it just asks for some verification and checking of file name. It allows you to generate the input file and the output file. So you have a source, and then you're creating an SQL script, which is your table in your database. The next is just some visualization to look at the file length and the number of columns that you're dealing with. The next section, basically looking at where the commas are. So this is counting characters and counting where the commas are in the code. And the various files, input and append, they are opened. And so now using a do loop that I'm using, it's the start of the file to the end of the file. So it's really reading the file twice. And you can see it's opening the file, reading it once, getting some metadata. And then upon the second go around, it's opening up again the definitions that are going into the SQL script. And it continues, and it begins building the header portion, which I showed you. And it's going to then build the lower portion and data types to some of the headers that, say if it's predefined. If not, you can go back in and just manually edit the in the header in the script file. And then at the end, it outputs the strings and does a little bit of string cleanup for the data columns, the SQL table column, cleans those up a little bit here. And I'll be posting this code as a PDF. There'll be a link below so you can download this file. The code closes. I'll show you what the output of this code looks like. So I just wanted to go back to the folder where the files are kept, and I just wanted to run the compiled program, and here you see it running. Basically it's going to ask you to input a name for the database for the schema, and then it's going to ask you for the name for the table that this data is going to generate, and I believe it was still crop data.csv, so I'm going to make the table the same, crop data. And now I'm just inputting in the source file, the actual CSV file name that I'm using, and it is crop data.csv. Here it just asks you if you want to have your output file name the same name as the table name. So I just left that in the program as an option. I'm going to say yes on this option, so they're just named the same name, but they have different ending extensions. And here it's confirming that crop data table name is the same as the CSV file name. So here it's just letting you know that it's going to write cropdata.sql as the script from the CSV file. And that was just running through the CSV file to show that it read through all the records in the file. And here I'm just stopping the program just so for debugging purposes, but you can see it's counting the characters per line, say for index, the year, the crop data, the geo, the seeded area. Next will be the harvested area. And it continues going through each of those, looking for the commas and looking for the spacing and the production, the average yield. And once that is done, it creates this script file, which is the file that is going to be loaded into your database program. And I've tested these outputs in both IBM DB2 Cloud Pack as well as the desktop version of Postgre, I believe level 4. It's using PG Admin 14. And you can see here I'm just using Notepad++ to view the output file, and everything looks pretty good. It has all the records for the data for crop data built correctly, and the header is also built correctly. And at this point, what I'm going to do is show you that you can just copy the file by using Control-C on a Windows 10 desktop, and the same way that it was built in SQL, but here in Postgre they use PSQL. You would paste that file into Postgre using Control-V in Postgre in the PSQL function. And at that point, it should be ready to run if you wanted to run the file using the run command. But I'm just basically going to show you that the entire output has been loaded in. And if you were to run this, you would generate a table with all the data from the CSV file, and all the create table functionality is built in, and it would recreate this crop data table. But I don't want to rerun it right now, but it's been tested.